And we are live.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome everyone to Ask Down number 70. Hope you're good. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing well. Doing really well. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, I think, without further ado, then let's go over these two questions. One's from Michael, one is from Justina, came in a few days ago. And for anyone out there, no medical advice here, just general thoughts and comments. So let's jump in here. Let me share the screen. Here it is. This came in a few days ago, and this is from Michael, who I connected with, like, I think a year and a half ago or so. He was one of the first guests here, and I think you might have been in contact with him as well. But anyway, let's read this. The title of this email was CBTi question. Hi, Daniel. Long time no hear. I have a question for you. What has been your experience with trying to implement CBTi with pain? I believe I told you I get diagnosed with sleep apnea last November. Me being me, I'm trying to beat it naturally, so I lost about 25 pounds. Very good. Since March, and the goal is 60 pounds. Unfortunately, mid-June, I started having back pain, and then pain in my calves about a month ago. Back pain seems to have gotten better through PT, but the calf pain, when it does appear, comes mainly at night. I find myself in two states, either having pain in my calves at night or being hyper-aroused and constantly monitoring my calves to see if they hurt. I've decided to try to implement sleep restriction, but I am having trouble due to being in the two states above. Is CBTi mainly for folks that can't get to sleep and have no other issues like pain, or have you treated patients with chronic pain? The first question. And then I think there was a little bit more in the follow-up here. I remember you talked about the reason why something like CBTi is important is because it gives you a set of tools if you have trouble with sleep somewhere down the line. I have severe health anxiety only when there's a symptom that I'm unfamiliar with, and this causes havoc with sleep. Long story short, started having severe pain in my back, then calves. Appears to be just foolishly doing intermittent fasting every single day, plus walking 4 to 6.5 miles without any stretching nonstop. I lost 24 pounds, but I think that was not great physically. You know that drill. Start Googling the symptoms, the word disease comes up, 0 on the worst night to sleep, constant symptom checking, seeking reassurance, etc., losing more sleep, rinse, repeat. I've been in PT for exactly a month today. Really haven't had any pain for a week. Was told this garden variety sciatica and MRI was normal, but you know that fear still lingers in the back of my mind. So I think the day I wrote to you, I started to try sleep restriction. I think I was in pain back then, so I wasn't sure what to do, because it uses your body's natural sleep pressure to combat hyperarousal. I think it's going so right now, but only because I keep violating the rules. Like last night, I tried to stay up until midnight, but fell asleep, and the lazy boy probably close to that time, and I woke up at 2 a.m. When I tried to go back to sleep, I had too much health anxiety and probably went back to sleep a few hours later. I was supposed to get up at 5:30 no matter what, but when the alarm went off, I just turned it off and just slept for a few more hours. I think with a combo of following the rules plus going pain-free more nights, I should be fine. I was just curious if I did happen to have some pain, how CBTi helps with that. So I think basically the question here is somebody that has pain pursuing CBTi. What are your thoughts, Michael?
Okay, there's a lot in that email. Well, one of the things that caught my ear was when he said he had been diagnosed with sleep apnea and then lost weight. My question would be, has he been retested? Does he know if his sleep apnea is gone? Because sleep apnea, will impact a lot of things with health, and you want to really make sure that that's not confounding your efforts with CBTi. So that was kind of the first thing, and just kind of really staying the course with CBTi. He talked about some setbacks. You really want to kind of make sure you're not throwing yourself off the rails now and then. Really try to stay with it. And, it can take a little while. Pain is a really tricky one. It's like we don't address pain directly. We don't address any other health problem really directly. Depression is very common with chronic insomnia, pain, these kinds of things. But we don't address those directly. The hope is that, and research has shown that if you improve your sleep, that these other conditions can start to improve, and it's often through kind of the indirect route, where you start to take better care of yourself. You your whole mood improves. You're more positive. All these kinds of things when you improve your sleep. And so you want to just try to stay on track with the CBTI as best you can, and that, it sounds like he's in a pain-free stretch right now, which is great. Use that to your advantage. Really kind of get the CBTI techniques dialed in, and get a good game plan going. Not focusing on pain and things like that. Just try to live good healthy life during the day, and then stay with the CBTI at night. Like, try not to fall asleep for a few hours leading up to the start of your sleep window, and try not to sleep in for a number of hours in the morning. These kinds of things can really throw just a big wrench in your efforts. And so I would just really encourage Michael to try to keep going with that.
Totally. And by the way, we have a live question here from Michael. It's funny, it's like Coach Michael, then we have a question from Michael, another Michael here, a lot of Michaels, and we'll get to that in a second. But my thinking here is there are, a very common question is, I have this problem. How is this going to affect my sleep? And pain is a common one. And the question here is, like, if you have pain and you're going to do this, you're going to work with you using CBTI, can it still work, or is it not going to work at all? Is it not for you? Should you not do it, etc.? Well, here's the way I think about it. Like, a lot of things can affect your sleep, which is, again, my goal here is to make everything very simple, but I'm going to say this, that pain definitely can cause you to have disturbed sleep. No question about that. There's no surprise about that at all. The whole purpose of pain is to make you pay attention to a part of your body that needs attention, right? So then your body does not want to make you sleep. It wants you to stay awake, actually. So of course, pain can cause sleep disturbance, but that is, you can kind of minimize that disturbance by using, for example, CBTI. And what I mean by that, well, that is, if you start paying less attention overall to your sleep, and you don't think so much about how the pain is going to affect you, and you don't wonder and ponder it, and you think of it as a circumstance. You think of the pain as, yes, I have pain, but I can't really I'm already doing everything I can for pain. So it's a circumstance. And we think about it as a circumstance, as nothing that you can really do something about in terms of your sleep, then you minimize its impact on your sleep. If you have pain and you think about it like, oh, I have pain here, how is it going to affect my sleep? What can I do about my pain so I sleep better? Etc. Then the pain will have more impact on your sleep. But if you think about it as a circumstance, you will minimize the impact it has on your sleep. And so I say, anyone who has both pain and insomnia, for sure, like CBTI or other, non pharmacological treatments like we talked about here, will definitely help. There's no question about that in my mind. That was kind of number one. Number two was what Michael described about, like, falling asleep typically like early, and then maybe sleeping in too, waking up quite a lot of bit. But my thinking there was, like, for Michael, who's trying to lose weight, if you know that you almost always fall asleep at like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., then schedule something there that is active, like, do some exercise, take a walk, go outside at that particular time where you always tend to fall asleep. And then you can counter that. I think that can be really helpful for somebody who knows that I always fall asleep at this time. Yeah. Right.
I think that's really helpful. I'd like to say it's hard to fall asleep on your feet, although we've probably all done it.
Exactly.
If you get sedentary at a time that you often doze off, you're kind of asking for trouble. So, like you said, do something where you have to be on your feet, something kind of engaging. Don't get sedentary. If you know that that's the time window when a big pre-bed nap kind of tends to happen. Go outside, catch a little bit of the end of the day light, whatever you need. Just walk around and keep yourself awake closer to the start of your sleep window. Yeah.
And then and just so I finish, so I don't confuse anybody when I say that a lot of things can have some impact on your sleep, But really what matters is just how sleepy you are and how hyper aroused you are. Those are the gas and brake. For everyone who's the channel, check out the gas and brake. That's really all that matters. Now, what else? Oh, yeah. Michael shared, like, he had a lot of health anxiety, which a lot of people with insomnia often have, like health anxiety, general anxiety, sleep anxiety. OCD is very common as well. And Gavin, who might be listening to this too, is someone who's commented a lot lately and is very afraid of having sporadic fatal insomnia. And I think one thing that applies to, and I know I learned a lot about this from you, by the way, Michael, is that anxiety is always about ambiguity, the unknown. Could it be this? Could it be that? That is what drives it. So when you have, I find a lot of times when you have health anxiety, when you're noticing something, you're like, oh my gosh, what could this be? Then you are very, you naturally want to find out. Then you start researching, and then you read about it, and like, yeah, that fits, but this doesn't fit. But this other thing could, maybe I have it. And my point here is that the kind of natural response to worry, like trying to get to the bottom of it, trying to figure it out, often leaves you actually more anxious and more confused. So if if you're worried about your health, of course, talk to your doctor. But on the flip side, if you know that you have a lot of health anxiety and you kind of deep down know that I'm probably just, I probably shouldn't be responding this way, I'm probably just anxious, then instead of going down the route of like, I'm going to find out if this is it, I'm going to figure this one out, to go the route of, I probably can't figure it out. And that's okay. It's like the existential question, like abandoning the attempt at figuring it out and saying, I can't figure it out, I don't know, and I'm going to do this other thing instead. I'm going to do something I enjoy. If you can do that, I think that's always really good.
Yeah, sort of like, trying to figure something out, but, expecting to kind of solve every problem it's not realistic. So, for some people, they have a pain condition that, they've understood as best they can with help from their doctor, and then it just kind of is. And so you have to, cope isn't really the right word, but you have to just accept it. If something is what it is, you accept it, and don't let it impact other things in your life as best you can. Try to keep it like it's its own thing, and do the CBTi for your sleep, and the pain is what it is, but don't give it like a place at the table, for your sleep. Right. Kind of keep it like it's separate, and I think that might be helpful.
All right, well, Michael, thanks for staying in touch, and any follow-up questions, let us know. And here's the live question then from Michael Lorena. Daniel, I had a question that popped up in my head yesterday night. How do you deal with the PTSD of previous insomnia periods? It's that lingering fear at night that everything is at stake. I know the answer is don't be afraid, but what lines would you work on? I love this question because my thinking here has really changed. And if I would have answered maybe 3-4 weeks ago, I would probably gone down the path of saying something like, a lot of people are afraid of like the big one, like that time where you couldn't, you went 6 nights without sleeping or something like that. And I would have said something like, when you start having trouble sleeping again, don't pay so much attention to it. The big one usually doesn't come back, etc. But my realization is this, that if you think along the lines of like, oh, it's very unlikely that I'm going to have that much trouble again, playing down that, then you are actually, in a way, just maintaining the anxiety that you have. How do you deal with PTSD is like that thing that caused the PTSD. I don't think it's going to happen. It's unlikely. I'm going to do these things to prevent it. You're actually now trying to resist it, which means that you're never actually going to get past it. It's still there. So here's what I'm thinking. You have to, I know this sounds crazy and almost triggering for you, Michael, but you have to be willing to have that again. You have to be willing to have the big one, to have insomnia again. That is the only way to completely not have any fear of it. When you go in the direction of saying, I had a lot of trouble sleeping, and if it happens again, and it may happen again, that's okay. That is when you no longer have any fear.
Right. I think what you're kind of implying is confidence. You're talking about confidence. It's not, if you think about someone who's confident in something, it doesn't mean that they're perfect at it. It doesn't mean they're going to have something go really sideways and wrong once in a while. It happens, but the key is the reaction to it. And so, everyone has a little insomnia here and there, some more than others, and we're all different. And every way you can measure people, we're all different. So, confidence is just it's the understanding, or it's the confidence. It's the that when something goes wrong, you're going to be okay. It's not going to derail everything. So, that we could talk, of course, about like how, some insomnia doesn't cause any health problems. You've heard us talk about that a lot. So, remind yourself of that now and then, and do the best you can, not focusing on sleep during the day. And then, you just go about your CBTi. And if things go sideways, it's that stumble on the tree root analogy, when you're hiking. It's you just get on with your day and you move forward and you don't look back. And I think that's kind of a practical way to just kind of keep sleep in a proper context, and confidence usually will start to increase as you gain, positive experiences with sleep. But it doesn't mean, confidence doesn't mean everything is going to go great like all the time. It doesn't mean that. It just means you'll be okay when it does, because you're confident. You've trained yourself that what to do. And even if things go wrong, for a little while, it doesn't mean just like one night. It might be a couple, 2-3 nights. That can happen, but you're confident. Your confidence is there to get things back on track, and take a step back, take a deep breath, and just say, okay, I'm gonna do positive things during the day. I'm gonna enjoy my life. I'm gonna focus on other things, and just go through the whole sleep like a robot idea at night, and your confidence will be there for you, and you'll regain your sleep. It'll happen. Sleep, you can't not sleep. It's not possible to not sleep. And so just remind yourself of that, and usually things fall back into place.
I've talked about this in a couple of very recent episodes, Michael. If you check out the more recent episodes of the channel, you found the one I called actually post-traumatic insomnia, I think I called it. And somebody, I think it was Ferris, he reminded me of something I had said that was actually think it made a lot of sense, which was this one. Let's say, how was it again? This one. If you're willing to experience X, you lose the fear of X, So I think that's a really good one. Like if you're willing to have X again, then X doesn't scare you. And that's, I think, is the key to this one. I hope that makes sense, Michael, and let us know if it didn't. All right, so let's jump ahead here to our next question. This is from Justina. And the title of her email was Very Rare Sleep Issue. Let's read this. I hope my email finds you well. I need some advice. This is my story. It's very rare. I have an issue that no one can figure out. I was a fantastic sleeper my entire life. I had an adverse reaction to restarting Zoloft. I was on it for 2 weeks. Also had a I don't know if that to say akathisia. I did not sleep at all the second week, 9 days. The word could not fix me. I have been on over 20 meds in a year. No benzos work. I can have zero anxiety and depression and nothing, no crash. I don't understand how or if it's even hyperarousal or anything during the times I had zero stress. I tried CBTi. I have no mental disorders. My depression and anxiety are now back, making this issue worse. I have no sleep drive at all. Meds I take will make me feel groggy at best. Everyone gave up on me. I only found 2-3 people who have a similar story to mine. I want to give up. I don't know what to do anymore. This happened to me at the end of my last year. I don't have good health insurance. I have had sleep studies and so on. My mental health is going bad due to this. I don't want it to be blamed as the cause when it was not. Thank you for reading this. I really thank you for your messages. And this was because I sent a message saying we would talk about this. I feel so upset. I really don't have anyone or doctor that cares. It's brushed off as something else. Yet with zero anxiety, the issue still exists. I think I have a chemical damage. I have no idea. I wish the few I found who have a similar history as mine, I wish our cases were noted and explored better. It's rare. I do think something happened. As to what, that is debatable or unknown. Yeah, I can. When I read this, this really reminded me of to a couple of people. Like it was Tash, who was a podcast guest not long ago, and then Tracy, who has sent a couple of questions. And what I like like the first thing that comes to mind here is this one, that sleep, as we always talk about, is a passive process. When we're not thinking about sleep and we're sleepy and etc., it comes easy, right? Now, the classic causes of hyperarousal that then blocks sleep from happening is, anxiety, worry, stress, preoccupation. But other things can cause hyperarousal too. Excitement, for example, it's Christmas tomorrow or it's your wedding day, whatever. That makes you excited, hyperaroused. But guess what can also cause hyperarousal? Puzzlement. Just kind of like wondering what's going on, being like kind of amazed, like what, like that. So I, in this document I shared with you, Michael, and for everyone out there, I'm working on this kind of like document where I'm methodically like describing things that we often come across. I've called this phenomenon a wonder wall. You hit a wonder wall. It is, you're not necessarily worried or stressed or anxious, but you're just puzzled. You're just like, and this is exactly, in fact, what Justina is describing. I have an issue that no one can figure out. And there you have it in my mind. That is like, if you are just so puzzled in like amazement, like how is this even possible? How can I sleep this little? Then you will hit a wonder wall. That puzzlement will cause so much hyperarousal that you will not sleep. That was like the number one thing I thought about when I read this email. And towards the end here, there was some point where Justina said, "I'm about to give up," which giving up from a place of like hopelessness. I that's not something that is I encourage or that makes me feel good or anything like that. But if one gives up in a sense of like, I'm going to stop trying to figure out what's happening to me, paradoxically, that could definitely be the way for someone like Justina here to get to a place of sleeping again. What do you think of that?
Yeah. That I like the wonderment wall. I mean, it's kind of, that's what it sounds like. And I think, I would encourage her to, to review the CBTi techniques and just make sure that she's not missing something. That, because I think it was just briefly stated it didn't work for her or something like that, just real briefly. So I'd query that a little bit. Like, well, let's get really specific and talk about the different components of CBTi and see what you've done, and make sure that's okay. I mean, those are, I guess that's the main thing I was going to, my comment on that email would be just really make sure that that you've done the CBTi correctly and you've had, a coach has helped you with it, and you're not missing something along those lines. So that's the main thing I have, I think, on this.
Yeah. I think, to your point there, I was looking at the phrase and she just mentioned, I tried CBTi, and, usually that's followed by I tried CBTi and it didn't work. But I'm assuming, it didn't work too here. But my point here is that whenever you do CBTi or mindfulness or ACT or metacognitive therapy or whatever it is, if you do that in an attempt to fix the problem, then it easily becomes a sleep effort. You're like, okay, I'm going to do the CBTi so I can sleep more. Well, guess what? You're trying to sleep, which is the whole reason you can't sleep. And the whole, like, I've been on 20 medications in a year. That to me spoke volumes of like how much effort there's actually gone into this, which then, when I'm happy that Justina says that she's not particularly worried or anxious. That's always good, but there must have been there must have been some desire to sleep more from her or doctors. If it wasn't, if that desire to sleep or wasn't there, then I don't think there would have been these like 20 medications. And and I know this kind of sounds really like you know, how should I put it? It doesn't sound helpful when I say this, but the only way to really get to a place where you don't have trouble sleeping is actually to work on your desire for sleep, desire with a capital D there. And that desire, what I mean is like wanting, hoping, trying, pursuing, begging for, wanting sleep, like or like that thing. It's only when you work on that desire that you get to a place where you sleep better. So I think my conclusion here for Justina is like, I think actually when you abandon, when you say, okay, this must be some type of hyperarousal, and that hyperarousal probably comes from my puzzlement. I'm wondering a lot. I'm thinking about it. I'm puzzled by this. And when you then actually give up that pursuit of trying to figure it out, then I think sleep will come your way.
Yeah, and also what came to mind was I think 20 medications over the course of a year. We probably can guess what at least a lot of those medications were, but they probably are causing a lot of grogginess during the day and fatigue and things that probably depress your activity levels during the day and your mood during the day. It's these medications can carry over. They have that hangover effect. So make sure that you're doing things during the day. You're getting a walk in if possible. I don't know your mobility status, but you're moving around. You're doing what you can during the day, and you're not just kind of existing during the day. Try to get engaged in things as much as you can during the day. It's that kind of that yin yang relationship. With sleep and wake, that dualism where a little more activity during the day tends to promote a little deeper sleep at night. Not necessarily like faster falling asleep or sleeping longer or anything, but your sleep usually gets a little deeper. And that restorative nature of sleep might then become a little more, you might be a little more aware of it. So I guess I would just, I would ask about the daytime activities, because all those medications, I can just imagine how, you're not taking 20 at once, of course, but 20 over the course of a year, there's a lot of overlap. You can't it's not just one med to the next. I'm sure there was overlap, and that can cause a lot of really daytime fatigue kind of feelings. So ask your doctor about that, make sure you're on a safe, tapering or whatever you're doing with them. But ask your doctor, can this be affecting my daytime energy level, my fatigue level? If you're experiencing any of that, speak up with your provider and try to get some answers there.
Yeah, which I another thing that came up to my mind is that you have these like warnings on a pill boxes, like this can cause drowsiness, fatigue, etc. But what should be on all those boxes is this product could hurt your sleep confidence. I think that should be right,
Yeah.
Because in my mind, that is the big one.
There's some powerful medications out there that really, that are meant for sleep, but they can stick around in your system, and even after you stop, I just from a sleep tech side of view, I've seen these patterns in brainwaves that persist, in some medications, especially like the benzodiazepines, they can persist for, extended periods of time after you stop taking them. So I was always kind of curious. I wonder if it's kind of affecting the person, continues to affect the person long after they stop taking them, because we see brainwave patterns that do tend to persist. Or for that matter, the SSRIs also, kind of funny eye movement sort of activity that can persist. So, I've always wondered, is there a long-term effect of these things? So ask your doctor. Lots of questions to your doctor about the medications, and especially if you think it's affecting your energy levels during the day.
Two things that come to mind now is, first of all, that it can stick around in your system for a long time. Well, the time it can stick around in your biological system is somewhat limited, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but how long can it stay in your mental system?
Well, yeah, that's,
You imagine that one, right?
Right.
Somebody took it, you hear people say that I took a medication 20 years ago and that's when I started having trouble sleeping. That medication then, I'm thinking, has been sticking around in your system for 20 years. That is the real problem, is like how these medications affect your thinking.
Exactly. These are powerful medications, and the psychological effects can be just as strong and persist, and even, like you said, even longer. So,
but then I want to say something that a little bit contradicts what you're saying here, Michael, which is, I think a lot of people would expect me as a sleep coach or sleep physician to really focus on the negatives, the side effects of medication, which I don't do, because weirdly that can actually cause people to feel more pressured, because if you have somebody that's like, I'm taking this medication, I don't really want to, but I'm still taking it, and then somebody says, oh yeah, it has all these side effects, then that person becomes even more desperate to sleep, because now not only can they sleep, but now they gotta get off this medication. So I often actually try to downplay it, be like, these medications have been around for a long time, and kind of reduce that pressure.
I totally agree. I think what caught my attention was the number, the 20.
Oh yeah,
if that's the case, that's a lot of medications going through your system, and so you just want to kind of make sure that's not, that's not what's happening.
No interactions and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I think that was it for you. I want to say thanks to Justina, Michael. Stay in touch, Michael, Lorena as well, and we'll be back next Friday.
Yeah, great questions, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.